I could barely contain my excitement. I needed to tell Matthew the news right away. As I left the hospital, I envisioned the moment when I would share the news with Matthew. I imagined the joy radiating from his face, his eyes sparkling with the same excitement as mine. But when I entered Matthew's office, all my beautiful fantasies shattered in an instant. Matthew, faster. On the sofa in the office sat my husband and mate, Matthew, and my half-sister Thea. They were intimately embracing, Matthew still inside her, with Thea moaning with every thrust. Right there, their betrayal unfolded before my eyes. I felt my world crumbling, my trust and love dissipated in an instant. Tears silently streamed down my face, and my voice caught in my throat, almost unable to speak. I had never imagined this. Never Thea, Matthew. How could they be together like this? When I came to my senses, I found myself in the hospital. I was worried that I might have a terminal illness. However, upon seeing the relaxed expression on the doctor's face, I heaved a sigh of relief, eager to hear what he had to say. Could it be what I was hoping for? Luna, Irene, I have good news for you. Dr. Ben, the pack's doctor, said with a reassuring smile. I held my breath, my fists clenching in anticipation. You are pregnant, he said, as casually as if he were discussing the weather. In an instant, my world stopped spinning. Pregnant. The word echoed in my mind as I slowly processed each syllable. Wait, what? Did I hear that right? I asked, rubbing my face just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. Luna, Irene, you heard correctly. You are indeed pregnant. Dr. Ben affirmed once more. Pregnant, it was real. I immediately placed my hand on my belly, as if I could already feel the life growing inside me. A surge of emotions welled up within me. Joy, relief, disbelief, excitement, and tears sprang to my eyes. Thank you, doctor, I said, holding back my tears. You don't know what this means for Matthew and me. We've been trying for 3 years. This is a miracle. Matthew and I fell in love in college, before which I had no idea that werewolves existed in this world. My lover was a true alpha werewolf, and I was his destined mate. Due to the powerful attraction of the mate bond, Matthew didn't need to say much before I willingly immersed myself in his world. After we completed the binding ceremony, I became the human Luna of the pack. Initially, as a human Luna, I faced skepticism, especially regarding my abilities. However, with my wisdom, I helped our pack grow stronger day by day, and Matthew always praised me, saying I was the best thing that had ever happened to him. Finally, in the 2nd year, I was accepted by the pack. Our only regret was not having a child. For werewolves, offspring are crucial for the stability of the pack, just as in human society. Every powerful family places great importance on the continuation of their bloodline. They have to ensure that when the leader faces an accident, there's someone can handle the chaos. But no matter how well prepared Matthew and I were, we couldn't conceive a child. Although I was exceptionally capable, the reality remained, a Luna who couldn't bear children would still not be fully accepted by the pack. The issue of not having children weighed heavily on Matthew and me, even causing cracks in our marriage. But in the end, the moon goddess had other plans. Just when we were about to give up, she gave us what we wanted. I believe this news, this precious and wonderful news, would change everything. It would reignite the love and connection that had initially brought us together. Everything would be bathed in a new dawn. He raised his head, surprised for only a minute, but his expression quickly turned stern. He disentangled himself from Thea, stood up, his gaze cold and unfeeling. Irene, things are as you've seen them, he said, but his words lacked any remorse. Thea boldly stood there as well, not backing down, her eyes revealing her disdain for me. Why bother talking to her, Matthew? Tell her what you promised me now. You too? I asked, my voice filled with anger and pain. What do I need to know? Matthew glanced at Thea's belly, then turned to me. Irene, Thea is pregnant. You know how much I want a child. I felt the ground crumbling beneath my feet. Pregnant. That meant they hadn't just slept together once. The pain of betrayal rapidly spread through me as I recalled the reason I had rushed home. Suddenly, it cruelly mocked the news I had so longed to share, like a twisted joke. Fuck Matthew. Is this a joke to you? Wanting a child is your excuse for cheating on me with my sister? I roared in anguish. This is no joke, Irene. I waited 3 years for you, but you still haven't given me a pup, while your sister has. His voice trailed off as he ran his hand through his hair and sighed. Look, you are no longer fit to be my Luna. I watched as Thea rewarded Matthew with a kiss on the lips, then looked at me mockingly. I didn't know what expression to wear. I felt my heart bleeding. For Matthew, I had given up my beloved photography career and forced myself to adapt to pack life, always doing my best. The pack members respected me greatly. Just because I hadn't promptly given birth, our life we had built together turned to dust. Why could he be so disrespectful to his mate? So disrespectful to our marriage vows? Why couldn't he have waited a little longer for me? Thinking about what I had given up for him, and Thea, whose life in human society was miserable, unable to even pay her bills. It was me who had brought her into the pack, hoping she could take care of our mother, giving them a better life and privileges. But she showed no gratitude. The only way she thought to repay me was to take my husband. Anger began to brew within me. Instinctively, I raised my hand, wanting to slap Thea hard across the face. But just as my palm was about to touch her cheek, Matthew's reflexes were quicker, his iron grip seizing my wrist, his eyes flashing dangerously. Don't do that. Thea will be the pack's next Luna, he warned in a low voice. Don't make things harder than they already are. With that, he shoved me away forcefully, and I fell to the ground. I immediately cradled my belly. I could no longer place my hopes in someone who had betrayed me. I had to protect my child. Reject me? I glared at him furiously. Good sister, it seems you've accepted Matthew and me, Thea said in a venomous voice, then walked back to Matthew's side, linking her arm with his. Matthew, we should respect my sister's choice, shouldn't we? You are right, baby, Matthew said intimately, then turned to me. I, Matthew, alpha of the Gerard pack, reject you. Irene now, accept it. As I heard his words of rejection, pain crushed me like a rock. I collapsed to the ground in anguish, my knees slamming against the hard floor, my whole body aching. But I clenched my teeth, refusing to cry out. I wouldn't let him see my pain and feel satisfied. I lay there, struggling to regain my composure. I realized I couldn't let Matthew know I was pregnant. He wasn't worthy of being the father of my child. Since he could justify his infidelity, let him continue. The thought of him being involved in my child's life was unbearable. I needed to sever all ties with him completely. Slowly, I stood up, ignoring the throbbing pain shooting through my battered knees. I met Matthew's icy gaze one last time, and my heart shattered again. I accept your rejection, I said, my voice calm despite the turmoil within. But Matthew, you should know today you've lost something precious, I said coldly. Don't be foolish. The only thing about you worth my attention is your womb. But after 3 years, your womb has proven to be useless. Matthew mocked me. Thea is the Luna I need. His taunts stung. He had completely forgotten all I had done for this pack. From the beginning, I was seen as merely a breeding tool. I realized I had been romanticizing our feelings all along, but I refused to show any weakness. The sickening air here made me nauseous, and I worried I might pass out. I cannot let Matthew discover my pregnancy. Feeling the little life growing inside me, I found my only solace. The gentle reminder of my pregnancy gave me the strength to stand up again. As I placed my hand on my belly, I could almost feel the tiny heartbeat. This child would be the light in my darkest moment. I wiped away my last tear and stood tall. I will make you both pay for this, I vowed resolutely in my heart. For my child, I had to be strong. Leaving the pack felt like walking out of a cage that had confined me for so long, into the unknown wilderness. The weight of betrayal and the reality of becoming a single mother pressed heavily on my shoulders. I found myself in a warm place filled with the aroma of coffee. Oh my God, Irene, what happened? My good friend Emma immediately ran over and hugged me tightly. Carter and Emma were from the Shadow Pack, and Emma was the daughter of the Shadow Pack's Gamma. We had met at a pack gathering, and they quickly helped me become familiar with the werewolf world, becoming close friends I could confide in during that time. My friends had always been my pillars of support, and now I needed them more than ever before. I had called them before coming here. Emma ushered me to their table, their faces etched with concern. Irene, sit down, Carter urged, pulling out a chair for me. Tell us what happened. I took a deep breath, my voice trembling as I recounted everything. Matthew betrayed me, I began, feeling a fresh wave of pain wash over me. I found him with Thea. They were. I couldn't complete the sentence, the memory too vivid. Then he told me she's pregnant. He said I am no longer fit to be his Luna because I couldn't bear children. He banished me from the pack on the spot, severing our bond. Carter and Emma exchanged worried glances, understanding the gravity of my situation. They remained silent, allowing me to continue at my own pace. But there is more, I said, my voice choked. I found out today that I am pregnant. The shock on their faces mirrored the turmoil within me. Carter reached out and gently took my hand. Irene, this is devastating, he said carefully. What are you planning to do about the child? I sobbed, wiping away fresh tears. I am going to keep the baby, I answered resolutely. Child is innocent. I can't abandon them because of Matthew's betrayal. Emma's eyes were full of concern. Are you ready to be a mother under these circumstances? She asked gently. It won't be easy, especially considering everything you've been through. I wiped my tears and took a deep breath. I know it won't be easy, but this child is my light in the darkness. I can't let Matthew's actions dictate my future or this child's life. For both of us, I have to be strong. And you both know how long I've waited for this gift. Seeing the determination in my eyes, Carter and Emma nodded. They knew my mind was made up, and they respected my decision. I was truly grateful for them. Irene, we're here for you, Carter said calmly. Whatever you need, we'll support you. Emma nodded in agreement. You are not alone. We'll help you get through this. Their support provided me a sliver of comfort amidst the storm. Thank you, I said softly, grateful for their presence. I don't know what I'd do without you both. So what will you do next, and how can we help? Emma knew my nature. I wouldn't give up easily, especially after such a devastating betrayal. I wiped my tears and told Emma about my USB drive. When I left the pack, I was thankful to have my USB drive with me at all times, as I had the habit of constantly backing up data. However, the confidential information about Matthew's work wasn't complete. It was still on our house computer. I had to go back and retrieve it, but I couldn't do it alone. The only help I could think of was Matthew's enemy, Alpha Leon of the Golden Crown Pack. Luckily, I had been assisting Matthew in managing his businesses for the past 3 years, so I was well aware of who Matthew's adversaries were. There was a deep, irreparable rift between them. When Emma and Carter heard what I intended to do, their eyes widened in disbelief. They thought I must have lost my mind, that I would actually go to my husband's enemy's pack to help me get revenge. Irene, I hope this isn't the result of you overthinking in your heartbroken state. You know Alpha Leon of the Golden Crown Pack. His ruthlessness is known to all packs. The one person he wants dead the most is Matthew, and you were his Luna. Even though you are his ex-Luna now, that doesn't mean Alpha Leon won't mind that. I nodded, having certainly heard of Alpha Leon. He was our city's golden bachelor, with Golden Crown's businesses spanning globally, some overlapping with Matthew's. But more infamous than his wealth was his romantic history. He often made entertainment headlines for his colorful love life, regarded as a sex god in the hearts of wolves. Matthew was extremely wary of him, to the point where I was denied attending any events Leon would be present. But on television, he came across as cold and unapproachable. I knew the difficulty of this endeavor, but I had no better choice, and I had enough leverage to convince Alpha Leon to help me. I wouldn't give up. I had to try. So how do you plan to make Alpha Leon believe you? Carter asked, Emma looking at me too. Emma, I am going to meet him. I've heard about a gala tonight. It is urgent. I have to see him before I get kicked out of the house, Matthew, and I shared. I believe with the secrets I have, once they reach Alpha Leon, he'll believe my sincerity. But what if Leon decides to use this information against us? Emma continued. Carter chimed in. We all know Alpha Leon is a dangerous man. He has the capability to take down Matthew himself. He has just been waiting for the right time, but the information I have can accelerate his goal. I believe he wants to destroy Matthew's pack and businesses even more than I do. I tried to convince myself. All right, Irene, Matthew has been horrible to you. He deserves to know what betrayal feels like. You've convinced me on this. Emma and Carter placed their hands on my shoulders. Like we've always said, we'll support you no matter what. I took a deep breath, realizing my decision lay before me. Okay then, I finally said. Let's do this. Make him pay. As night fell, our confidence in the plan grew. Carter had replicated all the confidential data onto the USB drive, while Emma handed me her gala invitation for tonight's event, where Leon would be present. My only chance. We need to be extremely careful, Carter reminded us. We can't afford any mistakes. I nodded firmly, clutching the USB drive in my hand, determined to seek out my ex-husband's enemy. My hatred for the Gerard pack runs deeper than anything else. My pack, the Golden Crown pack, once thrived on a vast territory deep in the forest. I spent my childhood in a wooden cabin there, surrounded by ancient trees and the sounds of nature. Those memories are vibrant and alive, filled with laughter, adventure, and the warmth of family, but they were reduced to ashes by the Gerard pack, forcing us to flee to a strange land with bizarre conditions. That loss is a wound that can never truly heal. In fact, God knows how we even survived. My father was a strong and proud alpha who had to rebuild our business empire from scratch. I remember him hunched over his desk through the night, strategizing and making deals. He would never forget the shame of losing our land and the lives of our kin, and neither would I. The place we relocated to was a different world, one we had to adapt to and survive in. But it was never truly home. On his deathbed, Father looked at me with pain-filled eyes. Leon, he called to me in an uncharacteristically weak, yet authoritative voice that brought tears to my eyes. Never forget the shame of having our territory destroyed. You will take back what is ours. You will make them pay for what they did to us. Those words have been my guiding light, my driving force. Even now, as I stand on the precipice of a new battle, I can still hear Father's voice urging me forward. The hatred for the Gerard pack runs deeper than anything. Nowadays, the Gerard pack's Alpha Matthew is a coward who never attends gatherings I am present at, yet enjoys mocking me at the ones I miss. The gentle music plays in my ears as I scan the room, unsurprised to not find Matthew's presence. It is bound to be a dull night. Suddenly, my wolf Ryan stirs within me. Buddy, he whispers excitedly. My heart skips a beat. I begin scanning the crowd, my eyes searching for the source of the sudden revelation. Then, I see her among the elegantly dressed guests. She stands out like a beacon. The world around her seems to blur and fade, leaving only her in sharp focus. Waves of curiosity and undeniable attraction wash over me. She is utterly captivating, her mere silhouette commanding my full attention. Ryan urges me forward. Go to her, he insists. She is ours. Ryan growls softly, brimming with possessiveness. In those 3 short seconds, I consider a million pickup lines, all of which turn to stunned silence when I see my mate's face. The moon goddess has a cruel sense of humor. My mate is the Luna of my sworn enemy. Irene turns and strides towards me. My breathing grows rapid, my pulse quickening. The closer she gets, the more I can smell her scent, a heady blend of sweetness and warmth, with notes of fresh greenery that fill me with both calm and longing. She is now just feet away, and it feels like the entire room has disappeared, leaving just the 2 of us. Our eyes meet, and I see a familiar flicker in her gaze. Does she feel it too? That bond tying us together, that magnetic pull? Hello, I say, my voice calm, despite the storm of emotions within. Hi, she replies, her tone soft yet steady. Her eyes are a deep blue, filled with curiosity and caution. What brings her here? I am Leon. I introduce myself, extending a hand. Irene, she answers, taking my hand. Her touch sends a jolt through me. I can even feel my groin stir, my mind flashing with sparks from just my mate's touch. Ryan growls in my mind, and it seems like the only word I can form is fuck. But I doubt any woman would appreciate a man saying that upon first meeting. Enjoying the party? I ask, more to break the silence than out of genuine curiosity. Besides that matter, I have nothing else to say to her. How strange. It is lively, she replies, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. But I am not much for these kinds of events. I nod in understanding. Neither am I. Too ostentatious, lacking in substance. Her smile brightens, and I feel an odd sense of pride at being able to make her smile. Indeed, she agrees. I prefer quieter settings. The conversation flows smoothly, and I find myself growing more intrigued by her. She is intelligent, kind, with a quiet strength that captivates me. But our realities loom over us. She is part of Matthew's pack. I need to learn more about her situation. So what is an enemy Luna doing here unguarded? I boldly ask. Time to get down to business. I suppose it did take you a while to ask that pertinent question, she replies, her eyes filled with genuine interest. But I am no longer Matthew's mate, nor his Luna. The goddess, thank you for this gift. I have to work to suppress the upturned corners of my mouth. From any angle, this is a development of the highest delight. I try to cough to cover my elation, feigning nonchalance as I inquire. That is indeed a sad turn of events. So what brings you to the gathering? I can see she is deeply uncomfortable now, seeming filled with fear and tension, and it tugs at my heart. I wish she would unburden herself to me, and I would comfort her, then take her to my bed to help her through this painful night. I hope you can believe what I am about to say, Irene says, biting her lip, the friction making it appear even redder as I can't help but swallow hard, listening intently. Matthew betrayed me. That is why I left the pack, and I need your help to carry out my plan for revenge. Good. She blurts it out, quickly. Her candor hangs in the air, and at the thought of Matthew's impending downfall, a flicker of glee passes through me before being replaced by fury. How dare he treat her like that? My mate rises within me, coupled with an intense desire to protect her, to comfort her in any way I can. But I know I must tread carefully. I don't want to scare her off. I also haven't verified the veracity of her claims. She seems to sense my doubt, but presses on undeterred. The information I have can destroy Matthew. Will you help me? I look at her, searching her gaze, then slowly extend my hand. She places a small USB drive in my palm, our fingers brushing briefly. The jolt between us is palpable. I grip the drive, feeling its weight as I ponder what could be stored inside. Could this be a trap by Matthew? Irene's reputation in the pack may even exceed Matthew's. A renowned human Luna whose love story with Matthew was even featured in magazines. I steady myself, this also concerns my pack. Why should I help you? I ask coolly. She meets my gaze, her eyes filled with desperation and resolve. Because Matthew is a threat to us both, she begins. He is not just my personal enemy. He is a threat to anyone who opposes him. You've seen his behavior, his callousness. If he is allowed to continue operating his way, it won't just be my life he destroys. It could be yours, your pack's. Her words resonate deeply. For years, Matthew's ambition and lack of ethics have been a thorn in my side. But hearing Irene voice it, knowing the personal cost she has paid, makes it feel more visceral. He betrayed me in the worst way, Irene continues, her voice wavering slightly. He cheated on me with my own sister, and now he has cast me out, saying I am unfit to be his Luna. I have to make him pay for what he has done to me. I grit my teeth, fury rising within me at the thought of how Matthew treated Irene. We discuss further the specifics of the information she has, and how we can use it to take down Matthew. From the way she speaks, I can tell Irene is highly intelligent and cunning. I admire the strength she displays in the face of such betrayal. I have to go. I can't let Matthew find out I came to see you, she says softly. You can take the time to verify if my actions are genuine. I watch her lithe form disappear from my sight, and a heaviness settles within me. What kind of woman is Irene? A human, yet possessing a resilience rivaling werewolves. Her reputation alone proves she was an exceptional Luna. She gave up everything to join the pack, only for Matthew to put her through hell in the end. But she hasn't been beaten down. Instead, she chooses to fight back. She is an undeniable force to be reckoned with. Now that she has been confirmed as my mate, is the time finally ripe to exact revenge on Matthew. I returned once more to the house I shared with Matthew, though stepping back inside immediately cast a heavy pall over my mood. Meeting with Leon had provided a brief reprieve, and I hoped he would reach out to me proactively after reviewing the information on the USB drive. Matthew was absent, no doubt with Thea. The fleeting sense of relief was quickly replaced by a profound loneliness as I sank onto the couch, staring at the walls of a home that had once been filled with love and warmth. Now they felt like the walls of a prison, confining me in isolation. Running my fingers over the fabric of the sofa brought back memories of Matthew's presence that still carried warmth. But those memories had been tainted, his betrayal leaching the warmth away. I pulled out my phone, searching for information on Leon, his face, his powerful chest muscles. My fingers traced his image unconsciously as I recalled his intense gaze at the gala, the way he had listened to my proposition with skepticism, yet compassion swirling in his eyes. It all replayed vividly in my mind, stirring my inner wolf. I must have been too immersed in Matthew's love for too long. Alpha Leon was a man 1,000 times better than him. But would he truly accept my proposal? My phone rang then, jolting me from my reverie. A glance at the screen revealed Leon's name, and my heart skipped a beat. With a mix of anticipation and nerves, I answered the call. "Hello, Irene." Leon's deep voice reverberated through the line, sending a shiver down my spine. "I've been thinking about our conversation." "Hi, Leon," I replied, striving to keep my voice steady. "So what are your thoughts? Tell me, Alpha Leon." I held my breath, afraid of missing any nuance in his expression that could lead me to misinterpret his meaning. "Irene, Finally, Alpha Leon's magnetic timbre rumbled forth again, and I had to admit it sent a fresh wave of heat through me. I waited with bated breath for him to continue, still lacking a definitive answer. My assistant verified the information you provided, and it is indeed useful, but not enough to take down Matthew's pack and empire. I nodded to myself, responding evenly. The USB was merely a gesture of good faith. The real secrets are on my laptop. Matthew kept important files there, I explained. And that is what you need to obtain. I am under too much scrutiny to do it myself, so this is where you come in. A clever approach, Leon said after a pause, no doubt carefully considering my words. So you have a plan for how to make this happen. I took a deep breath, formulating the plan in my mind. First, we can stage a break-in. Your people can steal my laptop and take some minor valuables to cover the real motive. Then I'll report a fake burglary to mask the information leak. Leon mulled over my suggestion. A good idea. It won't trace back to you that way. Exactly, that is the goal. I don't want to tip Matthew off too soon. I want to give him one big surprise. But I will need your help with something else as well. What is it? Leon asked. I need you to attend my photography exhibition. I trailed off abruptly. You are providing me all this, just to have me attend your photo show? Bringing down Matthew is reward enough. The second request is because when I leave him, I won't be taking any of his alimony. That would be an insult. I want to continue my photography work independently, and your presence would create a huge buzz in the art world that I believe would benefit me more than any alimony from him, I stated firmly. I understand, and I am honored to assist. Alpha Leon chuckled. We'll proceed with your plan. When can we execute this break-in? Give me a few days to prepare, I replied. I need to ensure everything is in place. Understood, Leon said. Take care, Irene. Until then. Hanging up, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. However, I still needed to consider what to do about the house. Thea had made it clear she coveted it, but I wouldn't let her have it. The best recourse may be to demolish it entirely, but I would need to line up a suitable buyer first. Matthew had underestimated me, but he was about to find out just how formidable I could be. With Leon by my side, I would seize this opportunity to regain control of my life and make Matthew submit. I lay in bed, unable to sleep as Leon's voice echoed in my ears. We continued chatting on WhatsApp, discussing the details of our plan. He was direct, efficient, his words carefully considered and precise. I couldn't shake the feeling of his involvement, but for now I needed his help. That was what mattered most. Just as I was drifting off, the door suddenly burst open. Matthew barged in, his movements brash and grating. What is going on between you and Leon? He demanded, his tone icy cold. What is going on between you and Leon? Matthew demanded, his voice cold and harsh. I sat up, meeting his gaze with a defiant and weary look. It is none of your business, Matthew. Besides, I don't know what you are talking about. He narrowed his eyes, suspicion and anger evident within them. I could see it. It becomes my business when you are conspiring with our enemy. Have you been cheating? What? My throat tightened, but I forced myself to remain calm. Cheating? Don't be ridiculous, Matthew. While I was up late at night approving documents for Gerard Pack, you were figuring out how to stick your dick in my sister's hole. I could sense Matthew's embarrassment flash across his face, emboldening me further. I am the Luna you rejected. Our relationship is over. Whatever I do now is beyond your control. Maybe take a look beside you. My stepsister isn't as innocent as you think. He clenched his jaw, his facial muscles taut with rage. For a moment it seemed he might explode, but he restrained himself. Whatever you are planning, it won't succeed. You'll only make things worse. I took a deep breath. I needed to conceal my partnership with Leon. It couldn't be exposed so soon. Stop being so paranoid, Matthew, I stated firmly, holding his gaze. Leon has always hated your pack. I wouldn't meet with him unless I had a death wish. Matthew's lips curled into a mocking smile. You're smarter than I thought, Irene. But don't think you can fool me. I forced myself to stay calm, even as my heart raced. He stood there, rubbing his chin without saying a word. Isn't he supposed to leave? Is there anything else, Matthew? Or are you just here to throw baseless accusations? He crossed his arms and turned to face me. Thea wants you to move out of the villa as soon as possible. A wave of anger crashed over me. Thea, she has no right to dictate where I live. She's carrying my child, Matthew said coldly. That gives her every right. I clenched my fists, struggling to keep my emotions in check. I have given up everything for you, Matthew. My career, my independence, my happiness, and now you expect me to just walk away with nothing. All of yours. You mean your tiny less than 10 square meter apartment? Don't be foolish, Irene. Everything you have is what I gave you, but you failed to fulfill your reproductive value. Matthew scoffed coldly. I began trembling all over as he once again belittled my contributions. I couldn't let his negativity consume me. The house was our jointly owned property. I wouldn't let Thea get her way. You need to pay me a settlement, Matthew. Matthew shrugged, his expression indifferent. You'll get your divorce settlement. Isn't that enough? No, I said angrily. It's not enough. I want the house. It should be the sole property of my divorce settlement instead. Matthew's eyes flashed with anger, but he didn't argue. Fine, the house is yours, but there's one condition. Any future meetings with Maria will require prior approval from the pack. You know what that means, right? My blood boiled at his audacity. Did he suddenly go insane? That moment, I couldn't be more disappointed in him. You can't control every aspect of my life, Matthew. My mother is not part of your pack politics. He smirked, clearly enjoying the power he held over me. Those are my terms. Take it or leave it. You mustn't step your legs into my pack anymore. I stared at him, my mind racing. I couldn't let him control me any longer, but I needed the house. It was my only leverage, at least for now. Fine, I said through gritted teeth. I'll agree to your terms, but don't think for a second that you've won. Matthew's smile widened, his eyes gleaming with triumph. We'll see about that, Irene. He turned to leave, but I couldn't let him have the last word. You may think you're in control now, but remember this, I will not be broken. I will not be silenced, and I will not let you win. Matthew paused at the door, glancing back at me amusedly. Go for it. My inner pain deepened once again as I held back my tears. Never in my life did I imagine myself in my present predicament. Hi, Aiko. I picked up my carefully packed luggage and headed to the hospital. I had to bid farewell to Maria, my mother, and inform her that I had been expelled from the wolf pack and would be moving away in a few days. I had the house, but it won't do me any good to stay there. The hospital's sterile scent did little to calm my racing thoughts. As I walked through the halls, I tried to steel myself for the conversation ahead. Maria had always been a source of comfort, but this time I knew my news would only bring her worry. When I finally reached her room, Maria looked up with a concerned expression. She was sitting up in bed, her frail hands clutching the blanket. The sight of her vulnerability nearly broke me. Her illness had been dragging on for too long than it should. Irene, what is wrong? She asked, concerned. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. Maria, I've been expelled from the pack. I'll be moving away in a few days. Maria's face showed nothing but concern and worry. Oh, Irene, What happened? I couldn't bring myself to tell her that Thea was Matthew's lover. I was afraid Maria couldn't bear it, especially since she had always felt guilty about Thea after my stepfather passed away. Maria had always carried a heavy burden of guilt, feeling she had failed Thea and her brother Luke, my stepbrother. I explained the situation, without revealing the full extent of the betrayal. As I finished explaining, Maria's eyes filled with tears. She reached out and pulled me into a tight hug. In that moment, all my strength and pretense crumbled. I buried my face in her shoulder and let the tears flow freely. Maria held me gently, her touch comforting and full of love. "It is going to be okay, Irene," she whispered, soothing my almost frayed nerves. "You'll get through this, I know you will." After I had cried enough in Maria's arms, she pulled back slightly and reached into a small drawer beside her bed. She took out a delicate necklace with a wolf tooth pendant and placed it around my neck. "What is this?" I exchanged glances between her and the necklace, rubbing my hand on the pendant. "This was a keepsake your father gave me before he left," she said softly. "I want you to have it. It'll serve as a reminder that your father and I will always be with you, no matter what." I looked down at the pendant, surprised. I had never heard Maria talk about my father before. The pendant felt warm in my hand, a tangible connection to a past I knew so little about. Perhaps it was high time I asked for details about who my biological father was. Just as I was about to ask Maria about my father, someone appeared in the doorway. "Why don't you tell Mum the full story?" Luke mouthed, hands tucked in his pockets. At that moment, Luke entered the room, his face exuding anger at its peak. I saw the fire in his eyes, but before I could stop him, he began to speak, his words sharp and direct. "Luke," I stared at him, surprised. I didn't know Maria was expecting him. "Surprised to see me, right?" he taunted, winking at me. "You..." Luke cut me off before I could speak. "You see, Irene, why don't you just tell Mum all that really happened?" "I don't get what you are saying, Luke." His words left me wondering if he probably listened in on my conversation with Maria from the very beginning. "Mum, she is all lies," Luke said, glaring at me. Maria's eyes widened in confusion. "What do you mean, Luke?" He turned to me, his expression unyielding. "Why don't you tell her what really happened, Irene? Why don't you tell her how Thea became the betrayer who slept with your husband?" Maria gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "What? No, that can't be true. Tell me that is not true." There was a moment of silence. I reached out to calm Luke, but he brushed my hand away. I didn't want Maria to know about it just so that her condition won't aggravate. But here we stood with everything out in the open. Maria tightened her grip on my hand, trying to hold still. "Irene, tell me it is not true." Luke spoke up instead. "It is true, Mum. Matthew and Thea have been seeing each other behind Irene's back. She didn't want to tell you because she knew it would break your heart." Maria's face turned pale, and she swayed on her feet. I could see the shock and pain in her eyes, the betrayal cutting deep. "Is this true, Irene?" she asked again, her voice barely above a whisper. It was obvious she needed words of confirmation from me. Tears welled up in my eyes as I nodded. "Yes, Maria, it is true. I am so sorry," I uttered on a low tone, holding back my tears as the memory was still fresh in my mind. Maria's legs gave out beneath her, and she collapsed to the floor. Luke and I both rushed to her side, calling out for help. The room seemed to spin as panic set in. "Doctor, we need a doctor," Luke shouted, his voice echoing down the hallway. Within moments, medical staff arrived, and they quickly assessed Maria's condition. "Please, you need to stay outside for now," a nurse said to Luke and me, and we complied. Outside, Luke and I didn't speak to each other, We stood there with the hopes that nothing went wrong. After what looked like hours, the doctor came out with the attendant nurses behind him. She is stable now, but we'll need to wait for the test results to know her present health condition. Thank you, doctor, I said, and entered the ward again with Luke behind me. I sat beside Maria's hospital bed, her frail hand clutched in mine. The beeping of the monitors and the sterile smell of the room amplified the severity of the situation. Luke paced back and forth in silence, his face a mask of worry and frustration. We were both caught off guard when the door burst open, and Matthew and Thea stormed in. Thea's eyes immediately locked onto me. Her face twisted in fury. "This is all your fault," she spat, pointing an accusatory finger at me. "If you hadn't meddled, Mum wouldn't be in this state." I held her gaze, refusing to back down. "Thea, this is on you and Matthew. Your affair, your lies. Those are what broke her heart. Are you insane? I didn't come here to rant, like some sulking child like you did, and you are claim. That is enough, please. Since you developed the habit of being thoughtless, you can keep it with you till you get back to your home. Try to be a thoughtful daughter here in the hospital." Before Thea could retort, the doctor came in, his face grave. He looked directly at me, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. "What is wrong, doctor?" "Luna, her condition is critical. She requires surgery immediately." Thea's face turned a deep shade of red. "She's not the Luna anymore," she shrieked, glaring at the doctor. "I am, and you will address me as such." The doctor's eyes darted between us, confusion and unease etched on his face. He respected me as the Luna deeply, the whole pack does, and seeing the discord was clearly unsettling. "I apologize, but whatever is going on here is not important as my patient's health is." Matthew stepped forward with a stern expression. "Thea, enough. This is not the time for this." He placed a hand on her arm, but she shook it off, her rage unabated. "I need to sign the consent form," Thea insisted, her voice growing louder. "Irene has no authority here." The doctor remained firm. "With all due respect, ma'am, Luna Irene is respected many in the pack, and since she is here, we need her to sign for her mother, Maria, to get the surgery she needs." "Much love, Doc," I applauded inwardly. I loved his choice of words and emphasis on the word Luna and mother. Matthew sighed, running a hand through his hair. He shot Thea a disapproving look. "This isn't helping. We need to focus on Maria's health." Thea glared at him, clearly not used to being contradicted. "You're taking her side now, after everything we've been through." Matthew's eyes hardened. "This isn't about sides, Thea. It's about doing what's right for Maria." I stood up, stepping towards the doctor. "I'll sign the form. Just like you said, Maria's health is the priority here." Thea looked like she might explode. "This isn't over, Irene. You're not the Luna, and you never will be again." Ignoring her, I took the pen from the doctor and signed the consent form. "Do whatever it takes to save her," I said, my voice steady, despite the turmoil inside me. The doctor nodded, relief evident on his face. "Thank you, Luna. We'll take her into surgery right away." He hurried off, leaving the four of us in tense silence. Matthew turned to Thea, his face full of anger and disappointment. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "What is there to talk about?" she snapped. "She's undermining us." Matthew shook his head. "You're not seeing the bigger picture. The pack already respects Irene, and your behavior is only making things worse." Thea's eyes narrowed. "You're blaming me for this?" "I'm saying we need to handle this better," Matthew replied, his tone firm. "Maria's health is on the line, and all you can think about is your title." Thea looked like she might argue, but then she seemed to realize the gravity of the situation. "Fine," she said through gritted teeth. But this isn't over. Thea shot me a pointed look, then looped her arm through Matthew's and announced with a smile, "We'll be having our wedding in a week's time. Luke, I hope you and the others will attend. Of course, Irene, you are welcome as well if you wish." My fists clenched, but thinking of all they would face, I couldn't help but smile. "Of course, I'll have a surprise in store for you both." Matthew frowned and pulled Irene away, leaving Luke and me alone once more. I let out a breath, realizing I needed to accelerate my plans to bring down Matthew. "I'm sorry you had to deal with that," Luke said softly. "It's okay," I replied, though it wasn't. None of this was okay, but I had to keep moving forward. Hours passed in a blur of anxiety and fear. Finally, the doctor returned, his face tired but hopeful. "The surgery went well," he said. "Maria is stable, but she'll need plenty of rest." 4 hours had passed since Maria had lost consciousness. Each minute dragged by like an eternity. I sat by her bedside, holding her hand, praying for her to wake up. The tension in the room was thick, with Luke pacing and Matthew and Thea standing off to the side, their presence like dark clouds in the already gloomy hospital room. Finally, Maria stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and I rushed to her side, my heart pounding with relief and worry. "Maria, how do you feel?" I asked softly, trying to keep my voice steady. Instead of answering me, Maria's gaze shifted to Matthew and Thea. A flicker of pain crossed her face, but she quickly masked it. She knew the truth now. Kudos to Luke, who couldn't keep a secret. But despite Thea's betrayal, I could see that Maria struggled to blame her completely. Family ties ran deep, even when they were strained by deceit and infidelity. "You both should leave now." Maria's voice was weak but firm. "I need you both to leave. I don't want to see either of you right now." Thea's eyes widened in shock. "Mom, you don't understand. This is all Irene's fault. She's trying to turn you against us." But Maria's resolve didn't waver. "Thea, I know what you've done. This is not the time for lies or blame. Shifting, please just leave." Thea opened her mouth to argue, but Matthew, sensing the gravity of the situation, placed a hand on her arm. "We should go, Thea," he said, his tone leaving no room for debate. He knew that staying would only make things worse for their already fragile standing. Before they left, Matthew leaned in close to me, his voice a low growl. "Don't think this means you'll escape being expelled, Irene. This isn't over." I met his gaze, my anger boiling over. "You can go to hell for all I care," I retorted. I was way past that feeling of wanting to stay where I wasn't wanted. "No one will love you for the rest of your life, Matthew," I whispered fiercely. "Everything you desire will disappear." Matthew's jaw clenched, and I could see the fury in his eyes. But he said nothing. He couldn't afford to cause a scene in the hospital ward. With a final glare, he turned and left, dragging a reluctant Thea with him. As the door closed behind them, I felt a surge of triumph. Seeing Matthew look so aggrieved filled me with a sense of satisfaction. He deserved every bit of pain and humiliation coming his way. Maria's hand tightened around mine, pulling me back to the present. "Irene," she said softly, "are you all right?" Tears welled up in my eyes, but I held them back. "I should be asking you that, Maria. You're the one who's been through so much." She shook her head slightly. "I'll be fine, Irene, but I'm worried about you." I nodded, the reality of the situation settling over me like a heavy blanket. Maria's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, Irene. I should have seen what was happening. I should have protected you better." "Don't blame yourself," I said, squeezing her hand. "This isn't your fault. Matthew and Thea made their choices. Now I have to make mine." She nodded, and a small, sad smile crossed her face. You're stronger than you know, Irene. Don't ever forget that. Of course I am. If I may ask, why didn't you say anything or blame Thea? Silence ensued. I could sense Maria's guilt and shame. She looked at me, her eyes filled with sorrow and regret, before closing them again, pretending to sleep. She didn't want to answer my question definitely. It was a transparent attempt to avoid facing me. I understood her need to escape the painful reality, even if just for a moment. Seeing her like that made my heart ache. I wanted to comfort her, to tell her that none of this was her fault, but I knew that words wouldn't suffice. She needed time to process everything. Quietly, I stood up and adjusted her blanket, making sure she was comfortable. Then, with a heavy heart, I left the hospital room, closing the door softly behind me. In the hallway, Luke was waiting for me. As soon as I stepped out, he pulled me into a tight hug. "Irene, I'm so sorry for everything," he whispered. "I never expected Thea to be a bitch. Heaven knows who she took that stupid attitude from." His words were simple and filled with genuine emotion, which touched me deeply. I hugged him back, smiling at his sincerity. "Thank you, Luke," I said, my voice trembling. "It means a lot to have you by my side. I'll always stand by you, of course." "I know who you are," he said firmly, pulling back to look me in the eyes. "But remember, Matthew is still the alpha. You need to be careful. You can't disrespect him openly." I nodded, understanding the delicate balance we needed to maintain. "I know, Luke. I'll be smarter. I am the future. Besides, we can't let our emotions get the better of us. Your little act back in the ward was unnecessary." Luke gave a reassuring smile. "Don't worry about me. I'll handle my own issues. You focus on what you need to do." His words gave me strength. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of resolve settle over me. "I will, and thank you, Luke, for everything." After saying our goodbyes, I walked to my car, my mind racing with thoughts and plans. I started the engine and pulled out of the hospital parking lot. Then my phone rang. Glancing at the screen, I saw it was the real estate agent handling the sale of my house. "Hello," I answered from my end. "Miss Irene, I wanted to let you know that we've received an offer on your house," the agent said, his tone professional yet enthusiastic. "It's a good offer, and I think you'll be pleased with it." Selling the house was a crucial step in severing my ties with Matthew and his pack. But it also meant letting go of a place that held so many memories, both good and bad. "Thank you for letting me know," I replied. "Can you hold off on accepting the offer until I've had a chance to review it personally?" "Of course, Miss Irene. Just let us know when you're available to come in." "I will. Thanks again," I said before ending the call. As I drove through the quiet streets, my thoughts wandered back to the house. It had been a place of comfort and joy, but also one of pain and betrayal. Letting go of it felt like shedding a part of my past, painful but necessary. Arriving at a stoplight, I took a moment to collect my thoughts. The light turned green, and I pressed down on the accelerator, feeling a surge of confidence. This was just the beginning, and I was ready to embrace it with all the strength I had, knowing that someone was willing to offer a high price to buy my house. The news came as a shock, the kind that sent a jolt through your entire body. The house had been on the market for only a short time, and I hadn't expected it to sell so quickly, let alone at such a high price. It was both a relief and a strange twist of fate, considering how desperate I was to sever my ties with Matthew. At the agent's office, I carefully read every clause of the contract. Each word seemed to hold apart my past, my memories, and my future. I couldn't afford to miss a single detail. The agent, a middle-aged man with a kind smile, patiently waited as I went through the document. "Take your time, Miss Irene," he said, all smiles. "It's important that you feel comfortable with everything." I nodded, appreciating his understanding. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I signed at the bottom of the contract. The moment the pen left the paper, a mix of emotions washed over me. There was a pang of reluctance, a sense of loss for what the house represented, but there was also a budding anticipation, a hope for what the future held. "Congratulations," the agent said, extending his hand. "You've made a great sales." "Thank you," I replied, shaking his hand. The process of transferring the house payment to my account via telegraphic transfer was swift. Watching the numbers change on my bank statement brought a surreal sense of closure. The money felt like a tangible representation of my decision to move forward, to leave the past behind. A week later, I was sitting in my human community apartment, catching up on the news, when a particular report caught my attention. My former villa had been burglarized. The headline flashed across the screen, and my heart skipped a beat. Leon had started. Almost simultaneously, my phone rang. It was the police. "Miss Irene, we received a report about a burglary at your former residence." The officer on the line said, "We need you to come down to the villa to assist with the investigation." I agreed and quickly made my way to the villa. As I pulled up to the familiar driveway, a wave of nostalgia hit me, but it was quickly replaced by another feeling I couldn't pinpoint. Stepping inside, I was greeted by chaos. The room was in a mess, furniture overturned, items scattered everywhere. It was clear that this was the result of the plan Leon and I had orchestrated. An officer approached me with a grave expression. "Miss Irene, we understand this is difficult, but we need your cooperation to understand what might have been taken." I nodded, playing my part. "Of course, I'll do whatever I can to help." Walking through the house, I made a show of inspecting the damage. The burglars had been thorough, taking a variety of items to cover their true objective. The documents on my laptop, everything seemed to be going according to plan. "I can't believe this happened," I said, my voice trembling just enough to convey the right amount of distress. "This house, it holds so many memories." The officer gave me a sympathetic look. "We understand, Miss Irene. We'll do our best to find out who did this." As the officers continued their investigation, I took a moment to step outside and call Leon. He picked up on the first ring. "It's done," I said, keeping my voice low. "The police are here. Everything looks convincing." "Good," Leon replied. "On to the next," he uttered, and I bet he must be smirking behind the phone. Sigh. Oof. Sitting in my villa, I felt a rare sense of peace. That tranquility was shattered by the abrupt ringing of my phone. I glanced at the screen and saw Thea's name flashing. Reluctantly, I answered. "Irene," Thea's voice dripped with a forced sweetness that made my skin crawl. "Why didn't you and Luke come to our wedding? Do you not care about us at all? Matthew is furious. Without your blessing, our marriage, and the reputation of the pack, will plummet." I bit back a laugh at her audacity. "Thea, I've been a little busy. I experienced a burglary just now." "Don't be ridiculous, Irene," she scoffed. "You owe us this much, Irene, especially after everything. For heaven's sake, I owe them nothing." Her words ignited a spark of anger, but they also gave me an idea, a brilliant idea. "I understand, Thea. How about I make it up to you right now?" I suggested, my voice laced with an undercurrent of mischief. "Let's FaceTime. I have a sensational wedding gift for you and Matthew." Thea hesitated, probably sensing something amiss, but her arrogance got the better of her. She was at the wedding reception, obviously, and she needed something to create her stance, so she could be respected as the Luna. "Fine. Call me on FaceTime." I quickly ended the call and initiated a video call. When Thea's face appeared on my screen, she was standing in a lavishly decorated room, surrounded by wedding guests. She put the video on the big screen, the picture-perfect bride pretending to greet me happily. "Irene," she exclaimed, her voice artificially cheerful. "So good to see you. Everyone, say hello to Irene." I forced a smile. "Hello, everyone. It is unfortunate that my villa was burglarized earlier, so I couldn't make it to my sister and ex-husband's wedding. But luckily, I discovered something nice that can serve as a wedding gift for Thea." The guest's eyes were glued to the screen. Matthew's expression was grim. He must have guessed what I was about to do and was preparing to contact the staff to turn off the video sync. I turned on the television, playing the video of Matthew and Thea's affair on the screen. They didn't know the surveillance camera in the room had been on all along, and I had never checked it because I trusted them. Now it has become the best gift for Thea and Matthew. "Turn it off quickly." Matthew was scrambling for Thea's phone on the other end of the screen, while Thea seemed to have been stunned by the current situation. A collective gasp echoed through the room. Thea's face drained of color, her eyes wide with horror. She stood frozen, unable to move or react. Like everybody was there. No doubt, she must be embarrassed. "Exactly what I wanted." "Thea," I asked, feigning concern. "You look pale. Is something wrong?" She finally found her voice, but it was shaky and panicked. Irene, stop this." "Oh, but I'm just getting started," I said, my smile turning predatory. "I hope after going through this drama, you two can still maintain your love and fidelity. That is my blessing for you both." The room erupted in shocked whispers and gasps. Thea tried to shut off the phone, but in her panic, she fumbled. By the time she managed to end the call, the damage was done. The guests had seen everything. They knew the truth now rather than the lies they spewed to people of the pack all along. "Number, Irene, please explain it to them," I heard Maria's voice. "Don't ruin your sister's wedding." My mother attended this wedding. She still supported Thea. My eyes became moist, and my heart was about to shatter into a million pieces. It was Matthew and Thea who betrayed me. Why should I help them restore their reputation? "Maria, Thea asked me to attend her wedding with Matthew, so she should have known there would be consequences to this." I cleared my throat. As the former Luna of the Gerard Wolf pack, I have the right to prove my stance to all the guests. As the screen went dark, my phone rang again. It was Matthew this time. His voice was low and menacing. "Irene, you will pay for this," he hissed. "You think you've won. I will seek revenge, and you will regret ever crossing me." "Matthew, I think you're mistaken," I replied calmly. "You're the one who should regret ever underestimating me. Enjoy your wedding." I hung up, feeling a surge of triumph. Yes, I had burned every bridge with Matthew, but that was inevitable. This was my final act of defiance, my way of reclaiming my dignity and showing him I was not to be trifled with. Leon's point of view. Sitting in my spacious study, I placed Irene's laptop on the mahogany desk in front of me. The room was dimly lit, and the glow from the computer screen casted shadows on the walls lined with bookshelves. My gaze was focused and sharp as I powered on the device, fingers itching to find the information Irene had described. I took a deep breath, knowing that what I was about to uncover meant a lot to my plans. With swift, practiced movements, I went through the laptop's files. It didn't take long to locate the folders Irene had mentioned. My eyes scanned the screen, absorbing the details. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized the magnitude of what I was seeing. This wasn't just business information. It was the lifeblood of Matthew's empire. Secrets, strategies, and dirty dealings were all meticulously documented. I quickly copied the data to my own device, my fingers tapping furiously on the keyboard. The transfer seemed to take forever, but finally it was done. I straightened up, feeling a sense of accomplishment and a thrill of anticipation. I turned to my subordinate, who was standing by, awaiting orders. "Dispose of this," I said, handing over Irene's laptop. "Thoroughly leave no trace." He nodded, taking the laptop with a serious expression. I watched as he left the room, knowing that he would carry out my instructions to the letter. This was too important to leave anything to chance. Alone again, I opened the copied data on my own device. As I scrolled through the documents, I felt a surge of uncontrollable excitement. These files contained everything needed to dismantle Matthew's business empire. My wolf stirred within me, sensing the imminent victory. This was the moment we had been waiting for. Finally, I muttered to myself, a smile spreading across my face. We can bring him down. My thoughts turned to Irene. She had risked everything to get this information to me. I owed her more than just gratitude. This mission was no longer just about my revenge. It was about her as well. She deserved justice, and I was determined to get it for her. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions swirling inside me. Focus, Leon, I told myself. This is just the beginning. I knew that Matthew's downfall wouldn't happen overnight. It would take careful planning and precise execution. But with the information I now possessed, I had the upper hand. I was ready to dismantle his empire piece by piece, until there was nothing left. As I plotted my next move, my phone buzzed. It was a message from one of my trusted allies. He had secured a meeting with a key player in Matthew's network. This was the break I needed. Perfect timing, I said, responding with a quick confirmation. The battle was just beginning, but I was ready. For myself, for Irene, and for justice. I concluded whatever discussion it was I had with the guy, and again, my phone rang, and the screen displayed Irene's name. My heart skipped a beat. Taking a deep breath, I calmed myself before answering the call. Her gentle voice came through, soft and inviting. Leon, would you like to join me for dinner tonight? She asked, warmly. What an angelic voice. I complimented within me. A surge of excitement surged through me, and my wolf urged me to immediately accept. Trying to maintain my composure, I pretended to hesitate for a moment. But deep inside, I was already fantasizing about seeing her, long before she even called. Sure, Irene, I said, my voice trembling imperceptibly. I'd love to. Okay, good. Time, date, and venue. I'll send them to you, she said, and hung up immediately. I heard a ping on my phone. True to her words, she sent the outing details already. We were to meet in the next 2 days, according to her message. I looked up the venue online, and it looked like somewhere with a nice serenity. Deep inside me, I couldn't help but think of what she wants to see me for. I was basically short of ideas, since I don't know her too well. As the day of our meeting approached, I found myself paying more attention to my appearance than usual. I stood in front of the mirror, carefully selecting a suit. Eventually, I chose a well-fitting navy blue suit that displayed my dignity and charm as an alpha, but also revealed the importance I placed on this date. My wolf teased me in my mind. You look like a peacock, he said. I didn't respond, just smiled faintly. Despite my calm exterior, my heartbeat was anything but steady. Before stepping out, I looked at myself constantly in the mirror, and I was satisfied with how I looked. You look heavenly, Leon. I complimented myself out loud. Before heading to the meeting place, I made a stop at a flower shop. My eyes wandered among various flowers until they landed on a bouquet of bright sunflowers. Sunflowers symbolized new life and hope, and I believed Irene would appreciate this special gift. With the bouquet in hand, I arrived at the restaurant at the agreed time. My eyes searched through the crowd until they found her. Irene was elegantly dressed in a beautiful dress, her beauty momentarily making me forget to breathe. My heart pounded fiercely in my chest, and my wolf praised her beauty, while simultaneously cursing Matthew. As I approached her, she looked up and smiled, a smile that made my heart skip another beat. Hi, Leon, she greeted, her voice soft yet vibrant. Hi, Irene, I responded, handing her the bouquet. These are for you. She accepted the sunflowers, her eyes lighting up with genuine appreciation. Thank you, Leon, they're beautiful. We were seated at a cozy corner table, and after a few moments of small talk, the conversation turned more personal. I was surprised when you called, I admitted, trying to keep my voice steady. "I thought it was time we had a proper conversation," she said, her gaze meeting mine. "There are things we need to discuss." "Of course," I replied, nodding. "Where should we start?" The day of the meeting with Leon finally arrived, and I was crazingly anxious and nervous. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the simple yet elegant dress I had chosen for the evening. The soft fabric hugged my curves in all the right places, and the deep blue color highlighted my eyes. I wanted to look my best, to showcase my taste and demeanor, and to feel confident in my skin. Leon arrived on time, and as soon as he walked into the restaurant, he immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. Both men and women couldn't help but glance at him. He was dressed in a well-fitting navy blue suit that accentuated his broad shoulders and lean physique. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his piercing eyes scanned the room until they found me. There was an air of authority and charm about him that was impossible to ignore. Leon's style was completely different from Matthew's. Where Matthew's presence was cold and calculating, Leon exuded warmth and confidence. His movements were smooth and deliberate, and he carried himself with a grace that made heads turn. As he walked towards me, his eyes never left mine, and I felt my heart start to race unnecessarily. A long-lost excitement surged within me, surprising me with its intensity. I hadn't expected to have such carefully detailed feelings for Leon. Yet here I was, unable to look away. He reached our table, and a smile spread across his lips, making my breath hitch. "Irene," he greeted, his voice deep and smooth. "You look stunning." "Thank you, Leon," I replied, smiling like I was all right, despite the fluttering in my chest. "You don't look too bad yourself." He handed me a bouquet of bright sunflowers, their cheerful faces a stark contrast to the serious look in his eyes. "These are for you." I took the flowers, feeling a warmth spread through me. "They're beautiful, thank you." We were seated at a cozy corner table, and as we settled in, I couldn't help but notice the way Leon looked at me. There was a hint of aggression in his gaze, a desire that he didn't bother to hide. It pleased me, making me feel powerful and desirable. I never underestimated my own charm, but it had been a while since I had seen such open admiration directed at me. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me," I said, trying to keep my tone casual. "Of course," he replied, leaning in slightly. As Leon sat down across from me, the warm light of the restaurant cast a soft glow over us. The atmosphere was intimate, perfect for the kind of deep conversation we were about to have. "So, Irene," Leon began, a gentle curiosity in his voice, "tell me more about yourself. I feel like I've only scratched the surface of who you are." I smiled, feeling a bit shy under his intense gaze. "Well, where should I start? I guess my age would be a good beginning. I'm 32. Leon nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. 32 and already so accomplished. That's impressive. "Thank you," I said, feeling a blush creep up my cheeks. "What about you?" "I'm 35, he replied. "Old enough to know what I want in life, but still young enough to go after it." There was something so reassuring in his words, a confidence that made me feel safe. "What about your family?" I asked. "Do you have any siblings?" "No siblings," he said, shaking his head. "It's just me. My parents passed away a few years ago. They were both strong wolves, and they taught me everything I know about leadership and loyalty." "I'm sorry to hear about your parents," I said softly. "They sound like they were wonderful people." "They were," Leon agreed. "What about your family?" I hesitated for a moment, the pain of my mother's situation still fresh. "My mother is in the hospital, as you know, and I have a stepbrother and stepsister, but we're not close." Leon nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Family relationships can be complicated." "Yes, they can," I agreed, grateful for his empathy. "What about past relationships? I asked, curious to know more about his romantic history. All my time with Matthew, I never heard of the fact that Leon had a Luna or woman to call his own. All he had were sidekicks who satisfied his primal urge. Leon smiled, a touch of amusement in his eyes. I've had a few relationships, but none of them lasted. I guess I was always too focused on my duties as an alpha to really make them work. That not too good, I said. But I understand that being an alpha must be incredibly demanding. It is, he admitted. But I'm learning to find a balance. What about you? Any significant past relationships? I took a deep breath, deciding how much to share. I'll say that question is not needed. You know I was Matthew's Luna before the whole thing started. I've had a few relationships too, before Matthew, I mean. None of them ended well, unfortunately. I guess I've just had bad luck in love. Or maybe you just haven't found the right person yet, Leon suggested, his eyes softening. Maybe, I said, feeling a flicker of hope. It's hard to say. We continued to talk, our conversation flowing easily. Leon was a great listener, and he seemed genuinely interested in everything I had to say. It was refreshing to be with someone who didn't just talk about himself, but wanted to know more about me. After dinner, Leon insisted on escorting me back home. I wouldn't feel right letting you go home alone. He flashed me a smile. I agreed, feeling a sense of safety and comfort in his presence. As we walked to my apartment, the night air was cool and the streets were quiet. We talked about our favorite books and movies, laughing and sharing stories. It felt like we had known each other for years, even though this was our first in-person meeting. When we reached my apartment building, Leon turned to me, his expression serious. Irene, I've really enjoyed tonight. I feel like we have a strong connection. I feel the same way, I admitted, my heart racing. I want you to know that my offer stands, he uttered gently. And what offer is that, if I may ask? I would love for you to join my wolf pack. I think you would be a great addition, and I believe we could build something strong together. His directness surprised me, and I found myself unsure of how to respond. That's a big decision, I said, my voice trembling slightly. I need some time to think about it. Of course, Leon said, his eyes softening. Take all the time you need. I don't want to rush you into anything. Thank you, I replied. I appreciate that. Finally, Leon leaned in and kissed my cheek, his lips soft against my skin. Good night, Irene, he whispered. Good night, Leon, I replied, in my fluttering heart. As I watched him walk away, I felt confused and excited together. His invitation was tempting, but it was also a huge step. I needed to be sure that it was the right decision for me. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about Leon. His voice, his gaze, every little movement he made echoed in my mind. I touched my belly, feeling a sense of uncertainty. Joining Leon's pack could mean a new beginning, a fresh start. But it also meant leaving behind everything I had known. Was joining his pack the right thing? I couldn't tell. News about the wedding fiasco became the news of the day quickly as it spread through the community faster. It wouldn't be an overstatement to say that the news spread faster than lighting. It wasn't long before Carter and Emma arrived at my new apartment, eager to hear all the details and offer their support. I was sure that they were really happy for what I did. One reason they would forever be my friends. Carter immediately started helping me tidy up. You did well with this place, Irene, he said, examining the cozy living room. It's got a good vibe. Emma, on the other hand, was more focused on getting the gossip. She perched on my couch, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. So, spill it, Irene. How did your meeting with Leon go last night? I busied myself with organizing some books on a shelf, trying to avoid their inquisitive gazes. It was nice, I said, hoping to sound nonchalant. We talked about a lot of things. Carter paused his tidying to look at me. Nice. That's all you've got. Come on, we need more than that. I sighed, realizing I wasn't going to get away with being vague. All right. We talked about our families, past relationships with the packs. You know, the usual stuff. Emma leaned forward, her interest piqued. And how did you feel about him? I could feel a blush creeping up my cheeks. He was different, not like I expected. Carter raised an eyebrow. Different how? He's just very attentive and easy to talk to. He listens more than he talks, which is refreshing. Emma smirked. Sounds like someone's smitten. I rolled my eyes, trying to brush off her teasing. I'm not smitten. It was just a nice evening. But Emma wasn't convinced. Sure. So why are you blushing? I felt my face heat up even more. I'm not blushing, I insisted, but my voice was unconvincing even to my own ears. Carter chuckled, shaking his head. Irene, you've got stars in your eyes just talking about him. You can look at yourself in the mirror, dear. I tried to deny it, shaking my head. I don't have stars in my eyes. Leon is he's got this inexplicable attraction. But it's not like that. Emma gave me a knowing look. Not like that, huh? So, what did you two talk about that got you so flustered? I hesitated, remembering Leon's invitation to join his wolf pack. It was a significant offer, and I wasn't ready to share it just yet. We talked about a lot of things, but nothing particularly special. Carter and Emma exchanged glances, clearly not buying my deflection. You're hiding something, Carter said, crossing his arms. Come on, out with it. I sighed, deciding to give them a little more without revealing everything. He did mention that he felt a strong connection between us. Emma's eyes widened. And how did you respond to that? I told him I felt the same way, and I wasn't lying. I did feel that way for reasons I am not too sure about yet, still trying to figure that part out. I admitted, but it's complicated. Complicated how? Carter pressed. Just everything that's happened recently. Matthew, the pack, my mom. It's a lot to process. Emma nodded, her mood softening. We get it, Irene. But don't let the past hold you back from something that could be good for you. I appreciated their concern. But the decision wasn't so simple. I know. I just need time to think about it. Carter put a hand on my shoulder. Take all the time you need, but don't close yourself off to the possibility of happiness. What is done, Irene. Don't give the haters reason to laugh and sneer at you. I won't, I promised, feeling a bit more at ease with the way Carter emphasized more on the word. Haters. No doubt that he was talking about Thea and Matthew. The sarcasm didn't pass I and Emma by, and it had us laughing. Carter, sensing the shift in the conversation, asked with genuine concern, So, what are your future plans? You know, given everything that has happened. I heaved a sigh, thinking of the reply to give to Carter. Truth be told, I've been thinking about the way forward, but it seemed like I was stuck. As a rogue who had lost her wolf pack, my situation was indeed precarious. Honestly, Carter, I'm not sure. I've been so focused on just getting through each day that I haven't really thought about the future. Emma jumped in with a suggestion quickly. Well, if you don't mind, you could always join our pack. It's small, but everyone is really friendly and kind. She uttered and turned to look at Carter for confirmation, which he nodded to. I would have accepted her offer, but it definitely came with a great price. I appreciated the offer, but the thought of bringing potential trouble to their doorstep made me hesitate. Thank you, Emma. I really appreciate it, but I'm worried that if I join, Matthew might retaliate against your pack. I couldn't live with myself if that happened. Emma and Carter exchanged worried glances. You're family to us, Irene, Carter said firmly, We'd protect you, no matter what. I gave them a grateful smile, but the fear lingered. After a moment of hesitation, I decided to share the other option that had been on my mind. Actually, there is something else. Carter and Emma paid increased attention to me. What is that? Let the cat out, Irene. So, Leon invited me to join his wolf pack. I dropped the bombshell. The room fell silent for a moment before Carter and Emma erupted in excitement. What? They both screamed in unison. That's amazing, Emma exclaimed, practically bouncing in her seat. You have to accept, Irene. It's a fantastic opportunity, and it sounds like Leon definitely has feelings for you. I felt my cheeks flush with a mix of excitement and nervousness. I don't know, I murmured. It's a big decision. Carter nodded, his eyes sparkling with encouragement. Irene, this could be the fresh start you need. Plus, it's pretty obvious Leon cares about you. You should go for it. We can't be so sure. At least, one thing is sure, you are going to be safe. That alone, it goes a long way. Before I could respond, my phone rang, startling me. I looked at the screen and saw Leon's name. My heart skipped a beat. Carter and Emma had just finished teasing me about Leon's invitation, when there was a sudden, urgent knock on the door. The three of us exchanged puzzled looks before I got up to answer it. Standing in the doorway was Matthew's beta, his face tense with worry. Irene, you need to come with me. The alpha demands your presence immediately. I raised an eyebrow, my heart pounding in my chest. Why would I do that? I'm not part of his pack anymore. The beta's eyes pleaded with me. Please, Irene. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't serious. You need to come with me now, or it could go very badly for everyone involved. Carter stepped forward, his stance protective. She doesn't have to go anywhere with you. Matthew has no right to demand anything from her. The beta looked more desperate by the second. I understand, but this isn't just about Irene. If she doesn't come with me, things could get worse for all of us. I turned to Emma, who had a worried look on her face. Then I looked back at the beta. Something in his eyes made me realize that refusing him could have serious consequences. With a heavy sigh, I nodded. Fine, I'll go, but only because I want to hear what he has to say. Carter's hand tightened on my arm, his voice low and urgent. Irene, are you sure about this? You don't owe him anything. I squeezed his hand reassuringly. I know, Carter, but I need to face this. I'll be okay. Emma looked at me, her eyes filled with concern. Please be careful, Irene. I gave them both a small reassuring smile before stepping outside with the beta. He led me to a car parked by the curb, opening the door for me. I hesitated for a moment, then climbed inside, the door closing with a soft thud behind me. Whatever Matthew wanted, I knew it wouldn't be good, but I was ready to face him, no matter what. Matthew's point of view. Sitting in my office, I could feel the tension tightening around me like a noose. I had been staring at the clock for the past hour, waiting for my beta to return with Irene. The longer it took, the more restless I became. I clenched my fists, trying to suppress the irritation gnawing at my insides. How had it come to this? I had everything under control. My pack, my life, my future. But now things were unraveling, and Irene was at the center of it all. The thought of her slipping away from my grasp, defying me, made my blood boil. When the door finally opened, I turned to see my beta ushering Irene into the room. She walked in with a calm, almost defiant look in her eyes that only served to stoke the fire burning within me. I stood up, my gaze locking onto hers, trying to gauge what was going on in that mind of hers. Irene, I said, my voice low but firm, do you have any idea what kind of trouble you are causing? She tilted her head slightly, a hint of a smirk playing on her lips. Trouble? I think you are overestimating my influence, Matthew. Her tone was casual, but I could see the steel beneath it. She wasn't afraid of me, and that infuriated me even more. Don't play games with me, Irene. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been stirring up chaos ever since you left the pack. Irene crossed her arms, her gaze never wavering. I left because you gave me no choice. And now you're dragging me back here for what? To intimidate me. It won't work. Her defiance was like a slap in the face. I took a step closer, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You seem to forget who you are dealing with, Irene. I'm still the alpha. I'm still in control. She didn't flinch, didn't back down. Instead, she met my glare with a calmness that was unnerving. Control, Matthew. It looks like you're the one losing it. The truth in her words hit harder than I wanted to admit. But I couldn't let her see that. I needed to regain the upper hand, to remind her that I was the one with the power here. You're playing a dangerous game, Irene, I warned, my voice laced with barely contained anger. If you keep this up, I won't hesitate to make sure you regret it. Her eyes flashed with something. Determination, maybe even pity. You've already taken everything from me, Matthew. There's nothing left for me to regret. The finality in her words left me momentarily speechless. She turned to leave, but I stopped her. I realized that I might have underestimated her. She wasn't the same Irene who had once followed my every command. No, she had changed. And if I wasn't careful, I was going to lose everything because of it. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to choke on. My eyes burned with a fury that matched the turmoil in my chest. I stood just a few feet apart, but it felt like an unbridgeable chasm between us. My anger was very visible, radiating off me in waves, but I refused to back down. Not this time. Do you think you can just walk away from this? I said in a low, dangerous growl, the kind that made others tremble. But she stood her ground, her heart hammering in her chest. You've already lost, Matthew, she shot back. You just can't accept it. My eyes narrowed, darkening with a predatory glint. Lost. You think I've lost because of a few scandals, because you embarrassed me in front of my pack. This isn't over, Irene. It's only just beginning, she scoffed, crossing her arms over her chest. You're pathetic, clinging to power that's slipping through your fingers. The pack doesn't respect you anymore, Matthew. They see what kind of man you really are. That did it. In a flash, I was on her, moving faster than she could react. My hands were on her shoulders, and with a force that knocked the breath out of her, I shoved her down onto the couch. The world spun as she landed, my weight pressing her into the cushions. Don't you dare talk to me like that, I snarled, my face inches from hers. My breath was hot against her skin, my hands gripping her wrists so tightly that pain shot up her arms. Definitely. You think you can humiliate me and just walk away. Fear sparked in her chest, but she refused to let it take over. She glared up at me, trying to twist out of my grasp. But I was too strong. The disparity in our strength was painfully clear. Her wolf, weakened as she was, couldn't help her here. She was at my mercy. Let me go, she demanded, trying to keep her voice steady. But there was a tremor there that she couldn't quite hide. This is low even for you, Matthew. Her lips curled into a cruel smile, her eyes gleaming with a twisted satisfaction. You think you're so clever, don't you? That you've outplayed me. But you're wrong, Irene. So wrong. I leaned in closer, my voice dropping to a whisper that sent a shiver down her spine. I won't let you live easily. You'll never be accepted by any pack. You'll become a rogue, constantly on the run, hunted by dangers you can't even imagine. I'll make sure of it. Her heart pounded in her chest as my words sank in. That it didn't pass me by. The thought of becoming a rogue, of being completely cut off from any pack, was terrifying. Rogues were outcasts living on the fringes of society, constantly under threat from other packs and rogue hunters. It was a life of constant danger and fear. I saw the fear in her eyes, and my smile widened, turning wicked. "That's right," I murmured, my voice dripping with malice. "I'll make sure no one will take you in. You'll be alone, Irene, forever." She struggled harder against me, but I only tightened my grip, my expression growing more sinister. "You have no idea what I'm capable of, Irene. But you're about to find out." I wasn't bluffing. She knew that. I was ruthless when I wanted to be, and I wouldn't stop until I'd crushed her completely. "You'll regret this," I spat, glaring up at him with all the defiance I could muster. "I'll find a way to stop you." I laughed, a dark, mocking sound that sent chills down her spine. "You can try, but you won't succeed. This is my world, Irene, and I'm the alpha." Finally, I released her, shoving her back into the couch as she stood up. She gasped for air, her wrists aching from my grip, but she refused to look away. She met my gaze, refusing to let me see the fear that was threatening to swallow her whole. I straightened my shirt, a satisfied smirk on my face as I looked down at her. "Remember, Irene," he said, all cold. "You brought this on yourself." After leaving Miles' office, I could feel the adrenaline draining from my body, leaving me weak and unsteady on my feet. I paused in the hallway, leaning against the cold wall for support as the reality of my situation settled in. All of it was suffocating. I wasn't just thinking about myself anymore. I had a child to protect, a child with alpha blood, a child that would undoubtedly attract attention, both good and bad. And if there was anything I knew about the world we lived in, it was that danger often followed power. I took a deep breath, trying to steady the racing thoughts in my mind. My baby, the thought of rogues coming after us once the child was born sent a shiver down my spine. I had no pack to rely on, no wolf of my own to protect me, just a fragile, human body that was ill, equipped to fend off the kinds of threats that lurked in the shadows of our world. I thought of Leon. The memory of his intense gaze and the way his presence filled a room stirred something in me, something I wasn't sure I could trust. Leon was strong, capable, and more importantly, he was someone who had the power to keep us safe. But trust was a luxury I could no longer afford. Not after what Miles had done, not after everything I'd lost. No, my relationship with Leon was purely transactional. We both had something the other wanted. He needed me to bring down Miles, and I needed him to protect my child and me. That was it. If Leon ever decided to turn on me, I knew he could do it without hesitation. After all, I was once the wife of his enemy. I handed him the USB drive containing all the dirt on Miles' business empire. And if he wanted to betray me, he had everything he needed to do so. The thought left a bitter taste in my mouth. I needed to be smart, to take control of the situation in any way I could. Hiring reliable bodyguards was a start, but quality protection came with a hefty price tag, one that my dwindling funds couldn't sustain for long. I needed to find a way to generate income, and fast. I laughed bitterly at the thought. For years, as Luna, I'd been the one organizing others' lives, making sure everything ran smoothly within the pack. I was good at delegating, at planning grand events, and managing household affairs. But now I needed to figure out how to stand on my own 2 feet, how to survive in a world that no longer had a place for me. I couldn't rely on Miles' support any longer. What little I had from the divorce settlement wouldn't last forever, and any money tied to him was tainted in my eyes. No, I needed to create something of my own, something that would allow me to protect my child and ensure our safety. I straightened up, wiping away the last remnants of the weakness that had threatened to consume me. I was stronger than this. I had to be, for my child, for myself. Time to start thinking like a survivor. Irene, I whispered to myself as I pushed off the wall and started walking again. You've been through worse. You'll get through this, too. But as I walked away from Miles' office, the seed of doubt lingered in the back of my mind. Could I really trust Leon? Would I ever be able to trust anyone again? And if not him, who could I turn to in this new dangerous world I was navigating? One thing was certain, I couldn't afford any more mistakes. Not when the stakes were this high. When I returned to my apartment, I was a bundle of nerves as my mind raced from the encounter with Miles. As I stepped through the door, the familiar scent of lavender hit me. Emma had been burning her favorite candle again. I took a deep breath, trying to let the calmness of the place wash over me, but it was no use. The anxiety still gnawed at my insides, like a persistent itch I couldn't scratch. Carter and Emma were waiting for me in the living room. The moment I closed the door behind me, Emma rushed over. "Irene, what happened?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. I shook my head, unable to hold back the frustration any longer. "It's Miles. He's threatening me again. He said he won't let me live easily, that I'll never be accepted by any pack and will become a rogue constantly under attack." Carter frowned, his brow furrowing deeply. "That bastard, he's not going to let you go, is he?" I sank into the couch, my energy drained from the confrontation. "No, he won't. And it's not just about me anymore. I have to think about the baby. I can't keep living like this, constantly looking over my shoulder." Emma sat down beside me, her hand resting gently on my knee. "Irene, you can't let him control your life like this. You're stronger than he gives you credit for. We just need to figure out a way to rebuild, to protect yourself and your baby." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "But how? I don't have the resources or the connections anymore. I feel stuck." Carter leaned forward. "What about picking up your camera again? You were always amazing at photography. Maybe it's time to restart your career." The suggestion took me by surprise. I hadn't thought about photography in a long time. It used to be my passion before everything got so complicated with the pack, before I became Luna, and before I was sucked into a world where my worth was measured by my ability to support an alpha. "I don't know," I said hesitantly. "It's been so long. I'm not even sure if I still have the eye for it." Emma squeezed my knee, her eyes bright with encouragement. "Of course you do. Photography was your way of seeing the world, capturing the beauty in even the simplest things. You always had a way of telling stories through your photos. Maybe it's time to start telling your own story again." Their words started to seep into the cracks of my doubt, planting a seed of possibility. Photography had always been more than just a hobby for me. It was a way of expressing myself, of finding beauty in chaos. And right now, my life was nothing if not chaotic. "It would give you something to focus on," Carter added. "And who knows, you might even be able to make a living out of it. There are plenty of opportunities online for freelance photographers. You could start building your own life, independent of Miles, independent of any path." I nodded slowly, the idea beginning to take shape in my mind. Maybe this was exactly what I needed, a way to reclaim a part of myself that had been buried under years of obligations and fear, a way to create something beautiful out of the mess my life had become. "You're right," I said, a flicker of hope sparking within me. "It's a good idea. I think I will start taking photos again." Emma smiled brightly, her eyes glistening with pride. "That's the spirit, Irene. We'll support you in any way we can. You're not alone in this." Carter nodded in agreement. "We've got your back, always." Maybe, just maybe, this could be the start of something new. Something that belonged to me and me alone. "Thank you," I said with sincerity. "I don't know what I'd do without you two." Emma leaned in, giving me a tight hug. "You won't ever have to find out." Following the conclusion of Carter and Emma, I began to prepare my artwork tools and equipments. Finding my old manager, Martin, felt like stepping back into a world I'd left behind years ago. We met in a cozy little cafe downtown, the same place where we used to discuss all my old photography gigs. The familiar smell of fresh coffee and the gentle hum of conversation made me feel nostalgic, but also a bit nervous. I wasn't the same person I was back then, and I wasn't sure how Martin would react to seeing me again after so long. When I walked in, he was already there, sipping on an espresso, his laptop open in front of him. He looked up as I approached, his eyes widening in surprise. "Irene," he said, standing up to greet me. "It's been a while." "Too long," I replied with a small smile, taking the seat opposite him. After some small talk, we got down to business. I told him about my desire to get back into photography, and he listened intently, nodding along as I spoke. "You were one of the best I ever worked with, Irene," Martin said, all smiles. "I'm glad you want to get back into it. The industry could use your talent again." His words filled me with a sense of reassurance. Maybe this was the right move after all. "So, what do you have in mind?" I asked, trying to gauge what kind of opportunities were out there for me. Martin leaned back in his chair thoughtful. "Actually, there's a job that just came up, and I think you'd be perfect for it. A company is looking for someone to shoot a promotional video. High quality stuff, very artistic. It could be a great way to get your name back out there." "That sounds perfect," I said, excitement bubbling up inside me. "Who's the client?" He paused for a moment before answering. "Alvida Company." My heart skipped a beat at the mention of the company's name. I hadn't expected my first job back to bring me face to face with such huge opportunity again. Alvida Company have always been known as a company for big shots. I didn't think of starting big, but it seemed the goddess was on my side on this. "Is that going to be a problem?" Martin asked, noticing my reaction. "No," I quickly replied, trying to sound casual. "No problem at all." The deal was sealed, and I left the cafe with a renewed sense of purpose. The next day, I arrived at Alvida Company, ready to scout locations for the shoot. I had planned everything meticulously, down to the last detail, but when I got to the building, I hit an unexpected roadblock. The security guard at the entrance, a burly man with a permanent scowl molded on his face, blocked my way. "You can't go in," he said gruffly, his tone leaving no room for argument. I tried to explain the situation, showing him my credentials and explaining that I needed to shoot a few clips inside for easier editing. But he wasn't having it. "Internal confidentiality requirements," he stated flatly, his eyes narrowing as he looked me up and down. "But I have permission," I insisted, growing increasingly frustrated. "I'm working for the company." He didn't budge, and that's when things took an ugly turn. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a suggestive whisper. "Maybe if you make me happy, I'll let you in." His words made my skin crawl, and my temper flared. I wasn't the same timid person I had once been. Without thinking, I shoved him away, my voice firm as I told him to back off. The guard's expression darkened, and he grabbed my arm, his grip tightening painfully. "You're going to regret that," he hissed. Just as things were about to escalate, I heard a familiar voice behind me. "What's going on here?" Leon. His presence was like a sudden gust of wind, sweeping away the tension. The guard immediately released me, his face paling as he realized he was standing behind him. I was just," the guard stammered, but Leon cut him off. "Save it," Leon snapped, his eyes cold as ice. "You're fired. Get out of my sight." The guard didn't need to be told twice. He slunk away, leaving me standing there, still a bit shaken. Leon turned to me, his expression softening. "Are you okay, Irene?" I nodded, trying to steady my breathing. "I'm fine, thanks to you." He gave me a once-over, as if checking for any signs of injury. Then, with a slight smile, he gestured for me to follow him. "Come on, Let's go to my office. We can discuss the shoot there. Your office? I was shocked. Yes, my office, he replied with a playful smirk. I wasn't expecting that really. I know most of Leon's businesses during my time as Matthew's Luna, but I never got the knowledge of owning the big shot Alvita company that everyone trips for. My first job was lined up, and it just so happened to reconnect me with the man who had been occupying my thoughts, far more than I was willing to admit. As we walked through the sleek corridors of the building, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of Duck Fujie. Being with Leon felt oddly comfortable despite everything. When we reached his office, he closed the door behind us and offered me a seat. I couldn't help but notice the way his eyes lingered on me, a hint of something more in his gaze. So, he said, leaning against his desk, you're the mysterious genius photographer I've been hearing about. I couldn't help but blush slightly at his words. I wouldn't call myself a genius. He chuckled, his voice low and smooth. Modest too. I like that. There was a playful glint in his eyes, and I found myself relaxing in his presence. Maybe this job was going to be more interesting than I'd originally thought. Let's talk about the shoot, I said, trying to steer the conversation back to business, though I could feel the connection between us simmering just beneath the surface. Leon nodded, but I could tell he was still thinking about the encounter downstairs. I'll make sure nothing like that happens again. You deserve to be treated with respect. His words were sincere, and I felt a warmth spreading through me. Despite the complications, being around Leon felt right. And as we discussed the details of the shoot, I couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was something more waiting for us beyond just business. Sigh. Yi kao de. After successfully wrapping up the shoot, I couldn't help but feel accomplished. The day had been long, but every moment spent behind the camera had reminded me of why I fell in love with photography in the first place. As I packed up my equipment, Leon walked over, a curious look on his face. I'm looking forward to seeing the final product, he said, his voice warm. I'll have the samples ready in 3 days, I replied, meeting his gaze. I'll send them over, and we can review them together. He nodded, satisfied with that. Sounds good. Oh, and I heard you're planning a photography exhibition soon. I'd love to attend. I paused, surprised that he already knew about it. I hadn't told many people, only a few close contacts in the industry, and, of course, Martin. But then again, Leon had his ways of finding things out. Of course, you're invited, I said, a small smile tugging at the corners of my lips. It's a prelude to my official comeback. Then I wouldn't miss it for the world, he said, his voice lowering a fraction, enough to make my pulse quicken. We exchanged a few more pleasantries before parting ways, and as I drove back home, I found myself reflecting on the day. Despite the rough start with the security guard, everything had turned out better than expected. And Leon, well, there was no denying the pull I felt whenever I was around him. But I couldn't allow myself to get swept away. I needed to stay focused. Once I got home, I wasted no time diving into the editing process. I reviewed each shot carefully, making sure every detail was perfect. The images came together beautifully, better than I had even imagined. The creative energy I felt from the shoot flowed into the editing, and before I knew it, the samples were ready. I sent them off to Martin, and not long after, my phone buzzed with a message. Irene, these are stunning. You haven't lost your touch at all. I can't wait to see the full exhibition. Asterisk. His praise made my heart swell with pride. I hadn't been sure how people would react to my work after being away from the industry for so long, but Martin's approval was exactly the boost I needed. As I was about to close my laptop, another message popped up. This one was from Leon. The photos are incredible. You've truly outdone yourself. I'm looking forward to seeing more at your exhibition. I couldn't help but smile as I read his words. There was something so genuine about the way he expressed himself, something that made me feel seen, not just as a photographer, but as a person, it was a feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. "Thank you, Leon," I replied, my fingers hovering over the keyboard for a moment, before adding, "I'm looking forward to it too." After sending the message, I leaned back in my chair, my thoughts drifting. The exhibition was just around the corner, and while the excitement of my comeback filled me with a sense of purpose, there was also an underlying issue of something else. Something that had started the moment Leon walked back into my life.